Okay, so we're going to try something a little different today. I felt called or pulled to intuitively make a tea for myself today, and I thought that I would bring you along for that process. I think one thing that is super important to me within my practice of herbalism is learning how to balance the science with the more intuitive and spiritual side of herbalism. And I think for me specifically, sorry, my voice is also messed up because I went out last night. I told myself I wasn't going to drink because I was like, I knew my period was coming and the tequila was speaking to me. So yeah. I wanted to make a tea for myself today and kind of like show you how I intuitively work with my herbs and what I take into consideration when making a tea blend intuitively, and yeah, maybe catch up with y'all a bit. So, a couple things. This tea is kind of my way of welcoming my cycle and inviting that energy of newness and rebirth. But also, I am just dealing with a lot of symptoms right now. And so, without looking up the benefits of these herbs, I really just want to come over here and pick out a couple herbs that I feel called to drink and use today. And then after, we will do a little debrief on those herbs. And I don't want to really say like try to find a connection between the actual therapeutic benefits and why they'd be beneficial to me right now. Okay. I guess when I say intuitively picking my herbal blend, I think I'm less concerned about what the actual therapeutic benefits are. I really just want to go off of that trust that what I'm attracted to is something that has purpose and is something that I may need in this moment. And before even making this video, I already knew that I would be interested in red clover. I don't know if it's because it's springtime and this is a spring herb, or because I just absolutely love the color of red clover, but I know for sure that I want to work with it today. I recently went on a hike this past weekend and met with a few other women of color who are in the area, and one of them had requested that we bring an offering to the forest before we start our hike, and one of those offerings for me was red clover. So I think it is definitely a connection with the season that we're in and why I feel so drawn to red clover. So this is definitely going to be the base of the tea blend, and then I kind of just want to build a flavor profile surrounding the red clover itself, and listening to my body, and also really just wanting to embrace this spring season. I think I also want to have some lavender in my tea blend as well, which lavender surprisingly is an herb that I do not work with often. And if I do, typically I'm not making teas, and I think I'm drawn to it because I kind of want to feel like I am resting in this like floral cloud. With lavender being the very popular herb that it is, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with its extremely soothing therapeutic benefits, and so I think that is something that I really want to lean into. Right now we have a very pinky purple vibe going on, and I would love to get some more green into that blend. As frumpy as I feel right now, well, let me tell you, I was a little torn because I think going into this, I also wanted to have peppermint in this blend as well. Now that I have the red clover and the lavender, I'm actually a little interested in the Damiana. So I think we're going to use Damiana as that kind of like green element. She's looking a little old. This probably is gonna be the last time that I use this Damiana because she has definitely seen better days. But I think for the Damiana, why I am so interested in her right now is because I feel like over the past couple weeks, I feel like I've been leaning a lot more into my feminine energy. And I know this because I have been pole dancing a lot more, and with that, I have been able to really tap into new levels of self-expression in ways that I feel like I have been blocked for a very long time. For those of you who don't know, I have a pole in my apartment, and I've been like very inconsistently pole dancing for, well, maybe like 2 years now. It's been a while, and I feel like I've always just hit these blocks where I learn a new trick, but I don't necessarily feel like I know how to dance. And I think it wasn't until this year and this month maybe even that I have finally just allowed myself to move and allowed myself to actually trust the process, that I know how to move my body intuitively, and I can allow the music to speak to me in a way that encourages movements that don't have to be choreographed and I don't have to be given permission for. And so I feel like that has just reawakened a lot of sensual energy that has just felt very stagnant and locked away in ways. And so I think Damiana would be perfect for this time as well, just because I feel like sometime when I'm on my period, well, honestly, I feel like this is when I feel the most feminine, but maybe not the most sexy, I guess. That's what it is. But Damiana is believed to be a bit of an aphrodisiac, and I think this would be a perfect way to still honor that part of me that I've been really trying to tap into over the past couple weeks. And so I think this will be my base, I guess. Damiana and red clover, the lavender, is just to add a little more of, like I said, that cloudy energy and that soothing coolness. I don't know, I feel like the tea blend is still incomplete though. I really don't know what I feel like is missing per se. I think what is missing is a little bit of nourishment, if that makes sense. I couldn't help it. I have to also include some stinging nettle into this tea blend as well. And I think this is actually going to complete the tea blend because this feels good. I think one of the reasons why I am drawn to the nettle right now is because of the color. It's this really deep green, and this particular order of nettle was just filthy. And I don't know how to explain it because it's not like I think the herbs are bad, but it just looks like someone ripped these out the ground and didn't do nothing but shred them up, dry them, and ship them off to me. And I really like the energy that it gives. It just feels very earthy and grounding. And as far as herbs are concerned, nettle is believed to be very vitamin and mineral dense, and so I think this also just has some very practical benefits for this time right now. So I think this is also a great herb to include in this mix. The only thing that's going to make this a little difficult is I feel like I don't want a hot tea right now. I think I actually want an iced tea. So what we're going to do is we are going to brew the tea and then we're going to make an iced tea. Okay, so this might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but something that I've been trying to do, I guess, within my own herbal practice is to think less. And in no way am I saying that I am carelessly using these herbs, because I cannot stress enough that some herbs you need to be very careful with, and you need to understand how they impact you and your body, and you should always be extremely aware of the herbs that you are putting in your body. But for the herbs that I have in my cabinet, I am very familiar with them in a way that allows me to put more trust in myself to simply just be able to go over there and pick herbs off the shelf and understand that I am not putting myself in any danger or harm. Especially for these herbs, I know that none of these herbs are really known to give extremely adverse effects, especially for the amount that I'm going to be using today and the dose that I'll be doing. So for me, it's less about being careless and more just being open to this idea that I don't need to research every little facet of an herb for it to be valid and valuable for me to use and valuable for my life. And I think this is just my Virgo placements talking, because I feel like I have to rationalize everything in order for me to allow myself to do it. And as much as I appreciate that part of myself, and it has helped me in so many ways create structure and understanding within my life and the things that I like to do and want to do, I also recognize that things don't always have to be like that. And herbalism is one of the ways that I allow myself to play and to be curious. And so I'm trying to be better, now that I do have a better understanding of who these herbs are, to just have fun with it and not make it so technical. So I have my blue teapot that I will be using today. I need to go get the water actually, because I think it just finished boiling. So I'm gonna go do that. Today is Sunday, if you even care, and it has been an insane run of a weekend for me as far as just being outside and active and just doing a lot of new things and putting myself out there. And I think that it's so funny that all of that backed up to the first day of my cycle, just because I think for me and how I kind of perceive my cycle and just general trends that happen for me, I feel like my luteal phase is always chaotic in some of the worst ways, but also I recognize it as an end to a cycle. So I really just see it as the trials and tribulations and maybe even things that need to come to my attention just bubbling up to the surface and overflowing and really being put to the forefront of my mind before I move into this new cycle and essentially start fresh with a clean slate. But honestly, everything has been so overtly positive the last 3 days, and I feel like I've had a lot of time to almost refocus and recenter some of my missions, some of the things that I want to achieve, and I've also given myself an opportunity to reassess. So this is honestly exactly the type of energy that I want to have going into a new cycle. And so I am extremely grateful as much as I am absolutely exhausted. This past Friday, I went on a blind hiking date, I guess you could say, and I met up with another content creator who lives in Washington, and I met one of her friends that I actually ended up carpooling with to the hike, and then another friend that was essentially hosting the hike. It was in her backyard and it was a space that was really sacred to her, so that was super special, especially because they all knew each other. And it's kind of funny because they were all a part of this documentary that I watched called Expedition Reclamation, which is about BIPOC women in outdoor spaces and their experience with the outdoors and what it means to them. And it's crazy because when I met up with them, I didn't realize that's who they were, but it was mentioned that they did a film together, and I asked what film, and that was the film. And so I was like, oh, like, that's kind of crazy that these people that I found so influential and I guess I never imagined myself actually meeting in real life happened to be not only in my backyard, but open to this idea of blindly meeting me and sharing some of their most sacred spaces with me and just open to connecting. And it was super cool. It was a really great experience, and it was definitely way further out than I myself probably would have ever attempted to drive just for a day hike. But I feel like I had a lot of experiences this past weekend that have shown me that there's community out there, and there are people that are so open to not only being a part of these communities, but facilitating and putting in the work and putting themselves out there to make these spaces comfortable. But yeah, anywho, that was my Friday. And then once we finished that hike, I actually ended up getting lunch with the person that I was carpooling with, and they're super awesome, so that was really nice. But by the time we got back into town, I actually had to go straight to the airport to pick up my sister because I just recently hosted my biggest group hike to date this past Saturday, and it was absolutely amazing. And I'm still like going off the high of it, to be honest, as exhausted as I am because I'm on my cycle and just, it's been a crazy weekend. When I tell you it is the most refreshing, exhausting experience, I don't even know what I'm saying. Like my brain is jumbled. Like we're barely functioning right now. But when I tell you, it was just energizing. It was an energizing experience, and I had my sister come down to help me host it just because we had a turnout of about 45 people, which I've been hosting hikes since February. And for context, the biggest hike that I've hosted was 8 people. So the jump from 8 people to 45 plus was a lot for my brain to wrap around, and I was absolutely freaking out. So my sister and I basically went in on her flight to come from San Francisco to Seattle to help host that with me, and I'm really glad she did. I think if I were to do it alone, it probably would have been fine, but the way I was so anxious before, just that like anticipation anxiety and just not really knowing how it was going to go with so many people, and that's a lot of personalities, you know, that's a lot of different backgrounds and people and experiences coming together in one space with the hope that you, which in that case was me, the facilitator, would be able to guide that and make it a worthwhile experience. And so I think it would have been fine without my sister, honestly, but I'm really glad she was here. And I think her just being there, even if it was just like standing up there with me and kind of like being the tail of the pack to make sure that everyone was still having a good time, or that there wasn't anything going on that I should probably know about that was happening, which none of that was the case. But it was just great to know that I had her support there and it wasn't just me. But yeah, that was my Saturday, and it was absolutely amazing. And I feel like it just confirm something that I think I've known for a long while, and it's just that we crave community. And this is something that I've talked about a couple times on this page, and me just more so just trying to navigate ways to create these connections, knowing that I do have this platform, and I would love it to be a space where we can not only connect online and find each other online, but also commune in person and connect in nature, because so much of all of my platforms have to do with the power of nature and healing, herbalism, and just an over appreciation for the natural world. And I think it would be such a disservice to keep it all online when I know that I am fully capable of creating that space. And not that there are so many people that haven't been doing it already, but I think one thing that makes community so unique is that it can be niche and it can be built around the things that speak to you. And so I have been trying to kind of figure out how I can create a space like that for a while, and I started doing hike and yaps on here, and it just kind of snowballed into this thought of just like, Sydney, you literally do hiking yaps online. Like, why couldn't you hike and yap with people? Like, literally right in front of you, the name, the concept, how you want it to go, how you want it to feel. So it was just a matter of actually doing it. And pause. I almost don't want to put this Damiana in because it is so old. It does not look good. I'm actually gonna, it might be a little messed up because it does get a bit of sun exposure, so I think the color is just off. I know it's not bad. It's not like something's gonna happen if I drink this, but I think as far as potency and the actual benefits maybe that this herb can supply is gonna be a little weaker. Definitely gonna be less potent. Let's make our tea. So that was a great experience. I had a lot of good conversations, even surrounding me leading that space and what it means for me to kind of step into that leadership role and not shy away from the spotlight, which is also super affirming and interesting because that is a conversation I have had a lot with friends and people and myself more recently. It was just a really affirming experience, and I'm excited to host more. The tea is brewing, so we're gonna give that 5 minutes or so. But yeah, coming off Friday and putting myself out there in that way the day before and hiking, and then kind of turning around and doing the same exact thing for a bigger audience the next day was definitely exhausted for me. Now that I've gone on a complete tangent, let's get back into the teas. Okay, you can't really see me, but you can see my glass, so I think that's fine. I feel like I'm currently in this season of just needing to do things and sort of just realizing how exhausting it is to constantly be holding yourself back because of the what ifs and just being like overly cautious with things that were always and will forever be out of my control. I feel like I'm just kind of like tired of the narratives that I've told myself for so long that have held me back, and feeling like I just have never had the freedom to do the things that I want to do. Also, why does she kind of look like... Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and add in the simple syrup. It's kind of like this energy of like, why are we shutting ourselves down and telling ourselves that we're broken when in so many ways we are not, and we have so many gifts and so many passions that you want to share with people in your community and the world, and you're actively stopping yourself because for some reason you've told yourself for so many years that you're simply not enough. And if you were to do it, people wouldn't be there to support you. If you were to do it, people wouldn't care, and what's the point? And truthfully, it sounds so embarrassing to say that. Like, I feel like that's a level of vulnerability and thought process that I often don't like to share with people. I feel like the reaction is always like, why would you think that? Rather than validating the fact that I am someone who is insecure as well, and I have my own insecurities, and as much as every insecurity I don't think needs to be shared with the world, this is something that has affected the things that I want to do and who I am as a person, and I need to let it go. And a part of that letting go process for me is saying it out loud and acknowledging its existence, rather than pretending like it's some big mystery as to why I've operated in the ways that I do. And I think it's important to acknowledge too that the reason why I am so comfortable saying that and sharing that is because I am actively trying to move past that point and be better. We're gonna put these 2 ice cubes in and call it a day. And then we'll do a little taste test. Switching the angle again. So yeah, I guess this was sort of like this window into my world. And I guess one of the ways that I have learned to communicate and work with myself and my energy and those unspoken parts of me that maybe my conscious mind doesn't necessarily grasp but can feel. This was the tea blend of the day. It ended up being Damiana, stinging nettle, red clover, and lavender, and a little bit of mint simple syrup. And I think in sharing this process with you, I hope that you're reminded that there are so many ways to communicate with yourself. And I think as easy as it is to intellectualize everything that you do, sometimes it's nice to take a moment and just kind of like turn that part of your brain off. See what would happen if you allowed yourself to feel through certain situations and find ways to communicate with yourself that doesn't feel so heady, and what it means to listen to yourself. All right, I think I'm gonna go now. Thank you so much for watching. Happy May. Hopefully it is filled with abundance and joy and you find moments of peace and grounding. All right, talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.